All right, I guess we are a quorum, all here. So I will call the meeting to order. And I guess we've got the first item on the agenda for the budget reviews is the EMD, Emergency Management Director.
And Don's not going to be able to make it tonight. He had a meeting in Boston, is still on the road, so.
Okay.
I told him we'd give him another date.
All right. And what date shall that be? We have no meeting tomorrow night. Everybody saw that, right? 16th has been canceled.
Oh, okay.
And let's see. We didn't have any other. Ed, did you ever hear back from Chief Workman on those questions?
No, I figured it would take him a little time to go through them.
Okay. Is there anybody? We had tentatively thought about the 17th, right? For a meeting, but right now, we don't have anybody in that slot, do we?
No, we don't, but will we have enough time to do the public posting for 48 hours in advance?
Yeah, I don't know.
No, you'd have to post it now and do like 6.
Yeah,
Do like what?
6 p.m.
If you
Well, I
post
would-
it now for 6, you'll have time.
Okay. All right. Does that meet with everyone's agreement? We do it for 6 on Wednesday?
Are we going to be out of this meeting for me to go online to do that? Do you want me to just this meeting and go and do that and log back in?
Yeah, we can do that if you want.
you could do it from your phone.
Yeah. Mhm.
I don't have my phone with me.
Okay.
I'm
Lucy,
trying
could
to
you
get
do
in.
it?
I'm trying to get in from home, so if I can, I will, but let me try.
All right.
Mary, do you have a date for when the schools will be coming?
22nd,
A second.
and it's just going to be Hampshire.
Right.
Okay. Could we fit it in on that date instead?
Wednesday is St. Patty's Day.
Right. Well, and if I recall reading your memo right, or your comments, he had to be done by, was it 6:30, 6 or 6:30?
Sure. Yeah. So if you wanted to, we could have Don Snyder in at 6:30 on the 22nd.
Okay.
Make it easier.
All right. So let's see. So he'll be 22.
So don't schedule for Wednesday, the 17th?
At present, yeah. I
Okay.
don't know what else comes up. Yep.
So I'm not going to schedule. I can get in, but I'm not going to schedule it. Right.
Right.
Okay.
Now, who else do we don't, there's no one else that we need to set up a time for, is that correct? Other than the chief?
Then we'll have to do Norris once we get their information.
Right. Do we know when we'll have that?
They indicated they have to present the information to the school board first before they can meet with us. Now, there's a meeting with the school on the 24th of March. So I suspect probably after that, we'll be able to schedule Norris.
Okay. After
The Norris School Committee is meeting on the 18th as well.
I think that one's a special one.
Oh, okay.
And the 24th is their regular meeting, and I believe
Oh,
we're
okay.
discussing the budget then, I think.
Oh, okay.
All right, so we'll have Dawn on the 22nd at 6:30, and Hampshire's going to be, is that going to be at 5:30?
Yes,
Mary?
yes, 5:30.
Okay.
Are we talking 22nd of this month or next month?
This month,
But
this month.
This
Yep.
month? Okay.
so 5:30 for Hampshire and 6:30 for, and then we'll work in
Yeah,
Chief.
and Commissioner Gordon.
That's great. That's great. Yeah.
Got some background again.
Sorry, I'll mute it. I'm mute. Thanks, aren't I?
No.
I don't know why it won't let me mute.
Down at the bottom,
Oh,
left-hand
yep.
corner.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. So, and we'll get the chief worked in when we hear back from him. All right. Well, that takes care of 2A. 2B, Mr. Gibson,
Yes,
floor is yours.
thank you. All right. I've got most of it for you, and I still got some to do, but I'll start with the narrative on the town-wide. And the internet services is what we pay Charter Spectrum per month for the town hall internet. And currently that is $99.99 per month for the internet service, plus $14.99 per month for a static IP address. So that comes to $114.98 a month, so $1379.76, and it's just rounded off to the $1,380 in the budget. And then they're also, they're also under internet services, should have been in budget 2. The Charter Internet offers 3 business tiers. We are on the basic tier. They have a second tier and then a third tier. But as we are upgrading our computers to the laptops and going to the cloud with Microsoft 365, the ad hoc tech committee, and last year I had actually requested that we move up to tier 2 to accommodate moving up to a voice over IP telephone system. But this year the ad hoc committee is strongly recommending in that second tier that we request to go to $2,580, which is $199.99 per month, plus the $14.99 per month static IP address. And that will considerably increase our internet speeds here in the town hall.
And while we're on that subject, and totally unrelated to the budget, I had talked with you about getting access to email.
Oh, thank you for reminding me.
Do we all have that, or how do we all?
It's all forwarded to you.
Right, but if someone
But
wants to originate
Right,
an email,
yeah. Give me a call tomorrow in the office and I'll walk you through it, Ken.
okay. All right.
That's the only disadvantage to just having it forwarded to your emails.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And if I'm not in, Judy will track me down.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Next.
Next line item is web page maintenance, and we used to have a volunteer that did this, so it didn't cost us anything. The volunteer retired, so we had to start paying someone to do the upkeep of our web page. And the basic service, which is in the tier 1 budget, is $2,160 for the year. Currently, we have a contract for 2 hours of work per month for $180, which that covers. We do go over it once in a while, depending on the time of the year. It probably averages out to about $250. The busy times of the year are election times and town meeting times. Depending on what people are trying to get out on the web or change, it plays into that a little bit. We're at a point that probably doesn't make sense to go up to 3 hours per month, because we have months that the invoice comes in that she hasn't done that much work. So 2 hours seems to be right as far as on the contract. But like I say, we do exceed that, and when we do, we are charged for it. So in the tier 2 budget, you'll see that I've asked for $3,000 for the year. This comes out about at that $250 per month average that it's been averaging out at overall. Some months are a little higher, some months a little lower.
So the arrangement is we have her on retainer for the same number of hours every month, whether or not she uses them, and the hours don't carry forward.
Well, she has never not used the 2 hours.
Okay, because I got the impression just now from what you said, I thought maybe she came in under and we kind of lost that time.
No.
Okay.
No, it probably, if I had to say what a median was, it's probably about somewhere around $220, $25 per month. But then there's months that it's up $300 or $300 plus. So,
I mean, there's just so much basic that needs to be kind of updated. And then once we invest in that, then do the maintenance, which I can see for 2 hours a month. So there's no plan to do that, I guess.
well, the plan would be ideally, but it's going to cost us about $11,000, would be to upgrade our website. And with today's technology, there are some out there that are, once they're upgraded, at least the normal maintenance of them, of the items like keeping up with who's on boards and committees, adding basic things to the website or whatever, can actually be done by the departments themselves. So that would be a big savings.
Okay.
And is the ad hoc IT committee looking at the web page?
Yeah, it's one of the things they are looking at.
So they'll submit like something for consideration as to what they think would be a good fit for the town?
Well, probably, like I say, they're looking at the same options that I've been talking about, of what's the best way to upgrade that website so that we can do some of it internally or most of it internally.
And who's responsible for refreshing the individual pages, like for each department? People leave and they're replaced, but the replaced person is still listed?
It depends on basically what it is, what it is. If it's like a department head or whatever, I'd say that's probably my responsibility. If it's a board or committee member, I would look for that board or committee to say, hey, we got a new member or whatever, or we've changed officers so that can be updated.
Okay. All right.
Employment advertising, it's been pretty well level funded at $500 per year. In today's world, it depends on what comes up of how you can get it advertised and for how much. $500 may cover, basically one ad like on Indeed for a department head. If you had a high profile advertisement that you wanted to put out, for like fire chief, police chief, town accountant, that can actually cost you probably closer to $1,000. So really depends on how many vacancies you have in any particular year and what those vacancies are. But like I say, $500 isn't a lot. I think between a couple of association advertisements and the ad we had on Indeed for the town accountant, it probably ended up being about $525 to $550. And you'll see in that tab too that I've doubled that to $1,000 just to cover basically advertising for a couple of vacancies.
And I have a question.
Sure.
An employee who is going to be submitting retirement paperwork, how long in advance do they need to notify the town that they're planning on retiring? Is there a set time for processing of retirement packages?
No, they actually don't even have to, tell the town that they've submitted them, to be honest with you. Basically, depending on what the position is, if it's just a regular position, probably going by 2 weeks standard notice. That's all that's needed. When you get into some of the contractual positions, there's actually requirements in there for, notice. In my contract, I have to give 90 days notice. I have actually started to talk to the select board about some of the high profile positions, as if we might be well served to offer some type of bonus to an individual if they were to give like a year's notification that they were going to retire or what have you.
I was just curious as to like when their pension would kick in. Say, for instance, if somebody says I'm leaving, gives you 2 weeks notice, does their pension actually start that following month? Because I know we would have to give like at least 3 months, 4 months notice to have the pension to actually start when it's supposed to. So I was just curious at the town.
It really depends on when they file their paperwork. It usually takes basically at least a month to get that basic first check. So depending on when they file in the month with the retirement board, and like I say, they could refire with the retirement board and not necessarily tell the town, or they might tell the town at the same time. And sometimes people will go to file their paperwork, and they might find that, okay, I'm thinking of retiring in a month or two, and they may find that when they go, that there's some type of milestone that might be 6 months down the road or something that might be a considerable blip that's beneficial to them.
Ed, can I ask, is this something that the personnel board can put in its rules and regulations? Or is this something as a civil servant that locally you can't make those kinds of requirements?
I don't believe you can make those kinds of requirements.
Okay.
You can try to motivate people into
Giving a sufficient notice.
Right, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, because currently we don't have anything in our rules. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Yep. Thanks.
If you don't have any more questions on that, the next up is photocopy, lease, and supplies. The budget one tab's at $4,500. The lease on the photocopier itself is $251.91 per month. And this also covers the cost of all the paper for the copying and in the offices, as well as any of those copy supplies that we have to purchase, such as staples or whatever for it. And
does it include toner, or is that separate? You have to buy the toner?
no, actually the toner comes with it.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. But we have a set number of copies per month. And then when we go over that, it's 0.00625 cents per copy over that. So our overages run about anywhere from $25 per month to $100 per month, again, depending on the time of year it is.
And some departments have desktop copier kind of things. Does this include those expenses, or that's in their line item?
Well, the toner would be in their own items. However, for paper, for those printers and stuff, they take from the same stock as the copiers, so that paper is included.
I order my own paper, and I order my own bonded paper because I have to use special paper for vital records. I used to use the paper in the copier room, but I order my own paper now. So
Okay. I was just wondering if this was covered all
Yeah.
the expenses. Okay.
yeah, I just wanted you to know. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on that?
And then you'll also see in the tab 2 form that I asked for a consideration of $5,000 there to cover the overages.
Okay. All right. Postage.
Postage, I'm gonna have to get together with Jen on, because she's the one that takes care of the Pitney Bowes mailing machine. So I will get together with her and see if there's a breakdown of like how many first class letters get stamped and mailed during a year versus, shall we say, flats or anything that's special as far as like certified return mail.
Can I just say something? When I mail out ballots or census forms, I do a transfer from my account to pay for the postage because I mail out so many. So I do a transfer from my expenses to Pitney Bowes, and a wire transfer is done for the town clerk's portion of the big bulky mailings. Just so you know that.
But none of those dollars is in that number though, right? In Ed's number? You have your own postage number, right?
No, I use the Pitney Bowes machine, and then when I mail out census forms, or I mail out a big mailing for ballots, we print out reports of how much we have used, and then we submit them to accounting. And then I do a transfer from my account to Pitney Bowes to pay for it.
All right,
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's not in this number, correct?
right.
And I know Lucy's been doing a lot more mailings with the early in the mail-in voting stuff, so.
And it might get worse this year, because if it passes with early voting, then we'll be doing it for the local.
Yeah, but aren't they going after postage? I mean,
we are getting reimbursed for postage, so,
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
but Ed, in your budget too, you go to 17.5. What's the difference there? Go from 15,461 to 17.5 for postage?
Yeah, if I remember, let's see. Yeah, I'll check with Jen on that. There may be. I'm trying to remember if there's a supposed postage increase coming up or not. We'll find out and I'll get back to you.
Okay. All right.
And then legal, basically KP Law is our town council. They'll be going to $195 per hour, which is a $10 increase as of the next fiscal year. And they get $195 for an attorney, and it's half of that, or $97.50 for a paralegal. And we use KP Law for town meeting article review, zoning, and regular bylaw revision reviews, advice for infractions of zoning, building, or bylaws or permit infractions, legal filings and representing the town in court, and also in the cases if we're actually purchasing or selling real property. And you'll see $21,000 is level funded to what this year was, which was a reduction from the previous fiscal year due to the budget predicament we were in. Last year it was funded at $30,000. So you will also see that in the budget tab 2, I have listed it out as a request for $35,000. And I've done that, number 1, to bring it back up to where it was previously. And then number 2, also is to include the fact that we do have a number of bylaw amendments and zoning amendments that bylaw amendments have been done by our bylaw review committee and are looking to get them through legal counsel so that they can be put on a town meeting warrant for a town meeting vote. And planning board has also been going through some their zoning bylaw revisions, and they have some that they would like to have reviewed to be brought forward to town meeting.
And is any of that legal recovered if it goes into litigation by through the process?
Depends on really what the litigation is. I would probably say that under normal circumstances, I'd probably say probably 90 to 95% no. In certain circumstances, if we're going after someone, depending on what that infraction is of the bylaws or the zoning rules and regulations, there may be a possibility of getting some reimbursement for legal costs, but it really just depends on what the specific instance is.
I just wasn't sure if it was a practice when we're the ones that are going against an individual for an infraction.
Yeah, it really just depends on what the particular instance is.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm just curious as to whether or not in your mind, Ed, that might be a flashing red light to someone if you were going from 21 to 35.
Well, because it came down from 30, not really.
So you'd hang your hat on the 30 then, is comparing to 35.
Yeah, like I say, in fiscal year 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fiscal year 20, it was at 30. You
Yeah.
know, like I say, it would have stayed at 30 except for that particular budget period that we were already in.
Right.
You know, especially since the fact that, you know, both the bylaw review committee and the planning board has been active with going through some of the old bylaws and the old zoning bylaws and looking to, you know, update them and, you know, in some instances actually look at, shall we say, deleting some and adding some new ones.
Yes. We've been on the list.
There you go.
Okay. Any other comments, questions on legal?
No.
All right.
We never go out to bid on this. We never seek any other quotes. Just to make sure we're in the ballpark and there isn't something.
All of the attorney firms, I mean, you can change attorney firms, but they're all pretty much in the same ballpark. There's not a big difference of when it gets into municipal law of how much they're charging per hour.
Are they charging municipal the same as they do for their for-profits, or are we getting at least some consideration?
Most of these firms that we would use for municipal law specialize in municipal law. They don't necessarily, you know, go out
Okay.
into, you know,
All right,
and, you know, do divorces or,
okay,
regular real estate closings or what have you.
all right.
Where's KP Law's home base?
Their home base is in Boston, but they have an office in Northampton also.
Okay.
And if they were having to, you know, represent us in court, because they have the office in Northampton, even if it was an attorney that came from Boston, they would only charge us the travel time from Northampton.
Oh. Okay. Anything else on legal?
I don't think so.
Okay. PVPC?
PVPC, we finally got their actual letter with the assessment from them today. So instead of $1,002, it's $1,006.48. And the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, this is an assessment rate based on our population. And we are a member community, so the benefits we receive from them for this type of for the funding is that we are able to use their resources. We are able to utilize them when they come out with the district local technical assistance grants, which we have partaken for in some instances, where they will help us on various issues from bylaws to zoning laws to zoning rules and regulations, to helping us through with the master plan implementation committee, the open space and recreation plan update, and we could participate, but it would have some additional costs. They do have some things like centralized IT that's available to us, and a few other things. So it's a regionalized, shall we say, planning process that helps out both communities that do have planners, but especially that don't have their own planning directors or anyone in their planning staff in that community.
Okay. All right. Moving along, custodial wages. Expense.
Yeah, $9,189.18 is the current rate. It is based on one town hall custodian. That's all it's in this budget, but that same individual also does the library and the police station, and the funding for that is in their budgets. And it's based on, for the town hall, 10 hours per week at $16.01 per hour.
And it's the same wage rate for other departments?
Yes, it's the same wage rate for all three, and it's the same individual for all three.
Yep, okay. let's see. Telephone,
Telephone, $7,800 for the year. This is based on, we're part of a state contract for the service with Verizon. And it covers all the town hall buildings and departments except for the school.
except for the school, okay.
Correct.
All right. G&E, gas and electric,
Gas and electric, town hall, 24,362, should be adequate again this year from what I'm looking at for the average year's usage. This covers both the electricity and the natural gas. We get our electricity from Eversource, and our natural gas comes from Holyoke Gas and Electric. And this does factor into the two contracts the select board entered into, one for the net metering credits on the electrical side, and the other for the cow power credits on the electrical side.
how did we go from almost 35,000 in 2019 to 24?
That biggest part of that was actually the implementation of the credits. It was a big help.
23. Building expenses,
And that I'm still working on breaking down for you. So I'll finish it off and I'll give it to you. I'll actually send it out to you, but I will finish my verbal update at the meeting on the 22nd.
okay.
And then the technical equipment and tech services, I'm still working with the ad hoc IT committee on putting together a plan for what looks reasonable for those two going forward into the next year.
Tech expense, okay. So both those items, equipment and services.
Yes.
Yep. I'm not gonna bother with Memorial Day unless somebody else wants. Street lighting,
And the Memorial Day is basically simply the cost of the flowers that are put out on the graves in Center Cemetery.
Yep, okay.
And then the street lighting, if we were to continue leaving the street lights off that we had asked Eversource to shut off, the $8,200 actually should be sufficient again. But this is one area I look at as far as I consider a safety issue. And getting back to the $24,000 for the year to have all of them on that are at the intersections and whatever. I am a very strong proponent, and that's very high up on my list of my wish list of costs that were cut in fiscal year 21 to be restored.
okay.
And then HCOG, just which is the Hampshire County of Governments, just doesn't exist any longer. So we are not paying dues to them.
Okay. Any questions on any of these?
I do have one.
Yeah.
We received 20 dirt bikes for all highway vehicles and 17 people were arrested. Plus, more than a dozen dirt bike riders arrested over the weekend in Springfield. City leaders continuing to crack down on illegal riding.
Is that coming in?
Somebody is
And the
on here.
DPW looking to hire more employees and another.
What?
Operations
That
are
background
being
coming.
impacted by the shortage of workers.
There's some interference. Somebody has something on.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. My question was, what is the total for budget year 2? Budget scenario 2.
Right.
For mine,
Mm-hmm. Because the 116, I think are not the, the expenses that remain the same. That reflects the increase.
right. But it also doesn't have, I didn't carry over like the amounts that would be the same for the town hall custodial wages or the telephone or the gas and electric at town hall or the what the tech equipment services might
I
be.
understand that, but if I add budget year, just the overages, I can't just automatically add that 116 to the 134 because some of those expenses are already in the 134.
Right. So I can do it quickly in my head, but I will
Oh,
actually, I'll fill it in and send it back out
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah, just so I could.
Okay. And on the town administrator sheet,
Yes.
are there any changes there?
Now I'd have to go back and look at that and I don't have it in front of me, so.
All right, well, I think we had talked about, without getting too personal, about your salary.
And I do have a new contract, and what the select board was kind enough to do was recommend in that fiscal year 22 that my wages be restored to what they were before I voluntarily took the $3,000 cut. So
Right. So that would change.
that would be 81.6.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And a quick back of the hand, Francine, is $179,000.
179 is what the total?
Of the budget, of the budget 2 wish list.
So we're looking like $45,000 increase.
Correct.
Okay,
Of course, the other thing I have to do, because, and
18.
it's a little tougher for me because that is townwide, but I also have to put them in a priority order
okay,
for you.
okay, thank you.
And I have a question, just as a procedural question, not relative to the budget that you submitted. But when we get to a point that everything is consolidated, or this is how I'm envisioning it, so please correct me if that's not correct, but I'm envisioning that we, the Finance Committee, will receive an all-encompassing budget that includes all aspects of the town with scenario 1 and scenario 2?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And then
When
depending
might
on-
we get that? Ed?
Well, you still got to wait for the Norris School to finish their budget process. And there's a few other things like I'm probably going to give you an idea and just plug some figures just to hold some for like Norris School and possibly vocational school, because on the vocational school, the students don't even have to finish their application process till April 1st. So we don't usually get a list of our vocational students till after April 1st. And those can add up fairly quickly, because if you get an increase of 5 or 10 students over what you currently have, and the tuition is $17,000 a year, just in rounding, that can be a quick increase to the budget that you don't anticipate.
Thank you.
And how is that treated? Is that treated somewhat like a school choice where monies are transferred over? Or do we receive some offset for that because they're leaving, they're not going to Hampshire Regional?
No, basically the vocational tuition, shall we say, is actually part of the Norris School, and I won't say budget, but I will say the net school spending calculation for the Norris School. So it's, once we actually get the figures on whether and Smith Vocational is our preferred vocational school. So the individual student has to go to Smith Vocational unless Smith Vocational doesn't offer a program that they want to take up, and then they have the ability to go to another vocational school as a second choice. But they can't go to a second vocational school if the program they want to take at that vocational school is offered at Smith. We do have a few students that are going to currently to Westfield Technical Academy, and probably the biggest draw there for the program that Smith Vocational doesn't offer is the jet mechanic program.
So when you say tuition, I mean, it's not a sending district fee. I mean, every district has their own per pupil rate, and that's not what's sent to Smith Vocational?
What, can you run that by me again?
Oh, sure. Like when you have a sending, or like, it's not like a sending district type per pupil fee that we're sending to Smith. It's a set amount.
It's a set amount, correct.
It's their tuition
Which is
rate.
set by it's set by the state too. But yeah, it's not like school choice, and it's not like charter school.
Okay, interesting. And what if they end up opting to go to the Westfield Technical Academy? Would they receive the same funding? Or is it then a school choice?
No, their tuition is set by the state also. And up until probably about a year ago, Westfield Technical Academy was, I think, a couple of $1,000s a year less expensive than Smith Vocational. But my memory is when the state redid the vocational tuition rate approvals for fiscal year 21, that I believe the two are either almost identical now or are identical.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Ed, this may have something to do with Rachel's initial question. So once all of these numbers are received and all departments are signed off on, who provides the reporting as to what the budget looks like? I mean,
Regina and I will do that.
okay, and then that is forwarded to us for our review and sign off.
Correct.
Okay.
And comments.
Right. And the deadline for that process is April 1?
It's supposed to be April 1, right? Like I say, it gets very tight with the elementary school and also the vocational tuition.
Okay. And then so we sign off on that by April 1, and then that goes back. It has to be approved by the select board by the 15th of April.
Correct.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, what happens if we don't meet that April 1? What happens then?
As long as you've got most of it worked out by then, you're okay. If you don't, and you still have your town meeting in that first Tuesday in May, you can have some issues. We've already had our moderator say that he didn't think it was going to be safe to have a town meeting indoors in the month of May. So he thinks June would be better, but right now, from what I've seen and what Lucy's seen, we've seen some legislation that's been approved that you can adjust the election dates, but we haven't seen anything that's been approved yet that may be able to change the town meeting date. So we'll see where that stands.
And if we don't see anything from legislation, then we have to be on target for May 4th.
Well, except
And-
if it's not safe to have it indoors and we have to
Right.
have it outdoors,
Right.
I would probably say that Saturday after the 4th.
If I remember the town moderator's words at the select board meeting, he was saying it wouldn't be safe to have it outdoors on May the 4th, let alone indoors, based on his memory of early May weather.
Well, yeah, that he was talking about the weather itself rather than, I think, the health conditions. So, but like I say, first of all, we need some legislation that, would allow us to change it later than that. Which I have heard they've looked at, been looking at, but I haven't seen anything come through yet.
All right, so in your crystal ball, when do you think we will get this first pass? Or final pass, I guess. We'll determine.
Well, like I say, because of the Norris School and the vocational tuition, that's probably going to be right about the beginning of April. But like I say, I can put some plug numbers in there for those two with everything else being pretty solid before that, and just keep in mind that, okay, we could get, a surprise from either the Norris School or from vocational tuition that may make us want to think about altering some of our other thoughts about the other parts of the budget.
Okay, so with the exception of those other two.
Yeah, I would expect that we can put something together. I didn't look at when April 1st fell, but for that, so you have it by the end of March.
Wednesday.
Yeah. So yeah, we should be able to put something together that is fairly solid, except for those two, by the 31st.
And then we have to do a recommendation by the following day, that Thursday?
No, all it says is basically a budget shall be presented. Does not say that it has to be agreed to or approved at that point.
Budget has to be presented from us to the select board,
No, actually from me, so.
from you to us by the 1st.
That's not
Right.
what my law says, though.
That's what I'm trying to get square.
Can you make it a little clearer, Ed?
Yeah, it's should be presented by the town administrator for April 1st.
Well, we have already seen it.
To whom, yeah.
I would probably say it would go to both of you at the same time.
Both finance and the select board?
Yes.
But the disclaimer that the finance committee had yet to see it, nor pose a recommendation.
Yeah.
Well, theoretically, if I sent it to you both at the same time, neither one of you would have seen it.
True.
Right, but has historically, when the select board has received the budget, has it been approved by the finance committee?
In the 3 years I've been here, I would say no.
What's the purpose?
Well, I look at it as the purpose is that both bodies are a recommending body and have approval rights to that budget.
So
So is the thought process then that the board and the finance committee would work in tandem to create a finalized budget?
Yeah, and it might be to an advantage that the finance committee and the select board might have a joint meeting to go over that budget.
Yeah, I'm gonna say from my perspective, I appreciate recommendations from you folks really gone through these details, because that's not what the select board is gonna do. I mean, I have the benefit of doing this with you, but everyone else doesn't. And so it's your recommendations are very important to us.
I thought in past at town meeting warrants, any budget items were recommended or not recommended by the finance committee. So,
That would be on the warrant.
right, for town meeting, right.
Right, but
So
that doesn't.
that would have to do with the budget, right?
But that doesn't have to be done before the select board sees it either.
No, I know that.
It's been traditionally done after, but it can be done before or after.
Well, I don't know. I'm kind of new at this, as I said, but if we saw it first and did whatever we needed to do, and then it went to them, doesn't that make more sense?
Well, it does. Maybe I'm getting too technical, but I mean, I've envisioned in the past in some other municipalities that there could be a budget line item that has a description that says not recommended by the finance committee, which means that that was the request from management to the select board. So I guess the formality, it becomes, the submission comes from management to the select board with commentary by the finance committee. So, or is it that once we get these numbers that there's some, you know, mutual agreement as to what that item should be, and it goes to the select board, but we have to identify the fact that the finance committee basically has signed off on it.
Or recommends it.
Yeah.
Right.
So. Okay. I'm just a little concerned that if we don't get this until March 31st, and we've got to, you know, basically go through it, critique it, and say, you know, we don't agree on this item, or we do agree on this item. And if we don't agree on an item, how much time have we got to
Yeah, let them resubmit.
get agreed?
Yeah.
I think a lot of this, what you can and cannot agree to, be contingent on the revenue that we have.
Well, it's not only contingent on the revenue that we've got. I'll give you a prime example. Let's say we got 15 new students that come into
Well, yes.
vocational tuition. Well, that counts towards the net school spending for Norris School. So all of a sudden you've got, $225,000 that you weren't accounting for. What are you going to do with that? You made all these recommendations? Are you now going to just say, okay, well, we're just basically going to recommend that Norris School's budget gets dropped that amount? Or are you now going to go back into the regular budget and say, well, you know, that recommendation we had for this amount, we're not going to recommend that anymore.
Right, but revenue has a role in it. It tells you how much.
Oh, yeah.
room
Yeah, absolutely. And right now, my preliminary cut, but I still want to go back and check on a couple of different figures, is that we probably should have somewhere around $500,000 more in revenues this year than we had for fiscal year 21. But I want to go back in and take a look at our debt exclusions and make sure that nothing's falling off there, which plays into that, or what's coming back on it, because that does play into that increased revenue number.
Well, Dad, can we continue on your thought process there of your example for Norris? So we get all these extra students that are now going to the technical school, and let's, for sake of argument, we as a board say, well, maybe Norris needs to take some type of hit on this, and they need to go back to the drawing board. Now that takes time before they can get back to us and say, oh yes, we could probably cut here or cut there to accommodate this. So then we take the other piece of that. I mean, it seems like it's a very, could potentially be a daunting and time-consuming process when we have a deadline that's in 16 days.
Amen.
Thank you.
Just utilizing that example of yours.
Correct, because of the statutes of when those things are due, and they do fall right at the, shall we say, end of the budget process. So it does make it difficult. And to be honest, that's a totally extreme scenario I came up with, but
But not out of context. I mean, it could happen.
I mean, yeah, like I say, it's pretty extreme. You know, usually by the time everything plays out, you might see 5 or 6 more students or whatever, but it's theoretically possible, maybe not totally probable.
But when does Smith make its decision about whether or not they accept those students? They declare their desire to go there, but Smith also has to accept them. So the numbers may change even again.
Well, they could, and frequently they do after the fact, but usually you will take that that accounting for that, what they have at that April 1st, when at least the applications have been submitted, to do your math with.
Right. The worst, which would be the worst case scenario.
Right, exactly.
And our timelines are not any different than any of the other municipalities, right? So
That's correct.
all the other towns are in
We're
this.
all dealing with the same thing.
Yep. Okay.
Like I say, that's why I will, do my best to just put a plug figure in those 2 categories, and hopefully they will be close.
Yep. Now, how about a situation where once we have a handle for the revenues, and let's say the revenue projections come in considerably higher than expectations, and we've got a spread of money that can be redistributed, if you will. Who makes a decision as to whether or not that goes into rainy day funds, or whether or not we select, some items on budget 2 requests? Is that your decision, or is that putting some kind of pressure on us to say, well, we like this about the police department's recommendation for budget 2, or the fire department, or the highway department?
It's not my decision. I might make some recommendations, if that occurs, but it's not my decision. Basically, again, that falls back to, finance committee recommendation and select board recommendation.
So, all right, so now, now department's going to be looking at the finance committee for making a determination as to whether or not a second budget item is approved or not. Budget 2 item is approved or not. If let's say Randall looks at this and he basically says, hey, you guys are now get $500,000 in free cash. What are you going to do with it? Why aren't you going to buy me a new snowplow?
Well,
is that up to the finance committee to make that decision?
Well, free cashes are already taken care of and certified, so that's not going to be
Free cash may not be the right word. I'm just saying a surplus. Right.
Exactly. All of a sudden shall we say that the House or Senate comes out with a budget that's got $500,000 more local revenues, and it depends on if it's unrestricted government aid or Chapter 70 for schools or whatever to some extent. But, theoretically, what would happen if that occurred? And then you're right. All of a sudden, you've got $500,000 more. How do you spend that? And, basically, do you go back to and say, okay, well, everything's been met in budget scenario 1. Do we, and you might look at it this way, do we want to spend all of it on additional items in, budget scenario number 2, and then prioritize those and recommend that? Or do we want to do some type of a mix between spending some of these on some items in budget scenario 2 and putting some additional monies into either, like operational stabilization or the OPEB account or whatever? And that's all on the table at that point.
Ed,
Who
oh,
makes-
I'm sorry, Ken.
Go ahead, Rachel. Sorry. Go ahead.
So is there a way that during this discussion phase and deliberation, if you will, can that be in closed session, or do we have to post this and have the public potentially there as we go through the line items of this budget?
It's all
I
an
can
open,
only imagine.
yeah, it's all an open session.
Even though it discusses salaries and things of that nature. It can't be closed because we can't do a closed session based on the salaries.
Salaries are as a public record anyway.
I know, but while discussing some of this stuff, wouldn't it be, I mean, you don't want to look like the bad guy. I don't want to look like the bad gal. So some things, sometimes you're watching a committee and they say, well, we're going to go into closed session for a little bit. We're coming back. We don't have that right as a finance committee?
Not on these type of items, no.
And to be honest, neither does the select board. There are only a certain category of issues that can be held in executive session.
Really?
Right.
This is not one of them.
No.
Wow.
Well, okay, but I guess that still doesn't answer my question. No offense. Maybe I'm getting too detailed on this, but I would look at that $500,000 number as a managerial decision. So in other words, let's say you've got a department that reports to you, and that there's 100, let's say 100 of that 500 could go to one of your charges. Why wouldn't you make that decision as opposed to finance committee, which really doesn't have the day-to-day knowledge of what the needs are for that particular department? I just can't see us making those kinds of decisions. We can make the decision about the money once somebody has said, this is what I want to spend.
Right. And once again, I will make some recommendations, but all I can do is make recommendations because I'm not an elected official.
But you won't be making these decisions in isolation. You will have access to, other information, to Ed's recommendations. And I'm sure you'll hear from department heads as well. There'll be other opportunities for you to get information that will help you make that recommendation. And then, going forward, it's, the select board's in the same situation. Ultimately, it's the voters who decide.
Right, but it's also going to be the voters who are asking the question as to why or why not.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
If I could suggest, I don't know if any of you finance committee members have gone into the Hampshire Regional School Committee meetings when they're discussing the budget, or Norris, but it might be helpful. I know Hampshire Regional, their school committee meeting was canceled this week, so I just found that out, but it could be helpful to you. Because the business manager is there, Bobby Jones. So just a thought.
Mary has been graciously going to the Norris ones.
Sorry, I didn't know that, Mary. I apologize.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
And I thought Bobby Jones had sent something out.
Yes, she sent out on the approved final budget was sent out to all the finance committee members. So
Okay.
we have that along with the assessment, all the breakdown, et cetera.
Okay.
So we have that available. What's
Good.
missing is the Norris because it hasn't been presented yet to the
Right.
school committee.
Any other comments?
I just think it's a lot to ask of the finance committee, in my opinion. It's a lot of purview with little knowledge. And I appreciate all the time that, you know, the different heads have come to discuss, you know, their budgets, and I appreciate all that. But at the end of the day, when you're on the outside looking in and you're asked to make these recommendations, when you're not in the weeds of it all,
Right.
it makes it difficult.
Right.
And the voters are looking to the finance committee to give a recommendation, and my guess is they believe that we have that capacity to do so based on our knowledge.
Right.
Which isn't necessarily the case.
Can I just ask, being also on the bylaws committee, what do you think would help you? I mean, I know there's that budget process that's outlined in there, these deadlines that are put in. If we started earlier, will we have more time? I mean, not for this year, and we don't have that discussion now, but think about what could be put in place.
I'll give you one right off the top, an organization chart. So we know who reports to whom, whether somebody's operating by themselves or whether they're a charge to somebody else. At least for me anyways, I'd love to know.
Well, I'd like to see it actually start in December, the budget process, and we actually set meetings in January. And we have complete information, not having documents sent to us like a day before, because it does a disservice to us, because a lot of us doesn't have time to review the information thoroughly and then to come up with questions. And the other thing is the status of funds that's provided to us. It's like a, you know, rolled up number. It would be more beneficial from my standpoint if I actually saw the expenses broken down so I can understand what is their annual fuel, etc. We don't have any of that historical data to look at to say what is the average for 4 years. So then we can look at a request and say, okay, I can understand why they're asking that. We have nothing but just a number on the line, and that makes it very difficult. We're asking elementary questions where we should be asking, you know, more in-depth things. I like to have an earlier start, number one, and to have meetings established in January. And then publish a schedule and say, here, we're available this for January, and plug in, you know, have the department heads select the date, but they have to give us their documentation well in advance. So then we can have a good discussion.
I know this has been an atypical year because of all the vacancies in accounting,
Right.
but it would have been beneficial starting this out to actually see, you know, a complete income statement, you know, that had your revenue and your correlating expenses. I don't think since I've been on the board that I've seen the revenues. You know, I've only seen the expenses. So it makes it difficult. And then to have that, to add to your point, Mary, to have that historical element to see, well, what has it been trending? You know, how can you look at your projections without knowing what the trends have been?
I'd like to actually see the expense reports at a certain time, you know, end of month, end of quarter, and have the town accountant come and brief at least on a quarterly basis what the position is of the town.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have that. We have dates that are kind of off. So how can you compare last year at this point? How are we if there are different dates? It's not a set date. So.
Right, and I think that the new set of bylaws is basically calling for us to sit down with department managers too, so.
Yeah, but I don't think that belongs to us personally. We can discuss that at the 12th, but
Right.
I'm thinking that's the town's finance team should be doing that, because again, we don't see the commitments. We don't see commitments. So how can we do that?
Right.
Agreed.
Right.
Good. This is good discussion. Thank
Yeah.
you. Good input. And the current budget process does call for December 1st as the beginning of this process.
Yeah, and I think that was exacerbated by Vicky's departure. Okay. Any other thoughts or comments in that vein?
Who would be in charge to change the timing, the dates? Who would be in charge to say this is the new way? The new dates?
Well, I think, we would take the recommendations from, the finance committee and, looking at the current budget process, tweak it however you think gets us to the, work backwards to the due date so that it works for you. And then we would just have to revise the bylaws, but based on your input.
All right. All right, let's move on then. If there's any other thoughts. Revenue projections.
And like I say, my first cut at a draft, they come up, like I say, about $500,000 over what we had for fiscal year 21, and that's based on the budget that Governor Baker filed. Both the House and the Senate can file different budgets. Over the years, they'll usually change a little bit from what the governor files, but not a whole heck of a lot. So at least at this point in time, I think that the general government aid and the Chapter 70 aid that's in there, I don't think it's going to change a lot from now to July 1st. So I think we can use those numbers. Like I say, there's just a couple that I want to go back through that are our own internal numbers to make sure that they are right.
Ed, do we have any idea what kind of benefit is in this new COVID relief bill?
There's a couple of different things. I mean, the estimates that are out there are based on what's coming out of Washington, versus anything local or whatever. But what came out of Washington is my memory was Southampton may be getting a little bit less than $200,000 out of it. But I also haven't seen anything as far as rules and regulations about how that particularly can be allocated or used. I have heard that there's some preliminary talk that may be able to use some of it as to enhance revenue losses, but again, I have not seen anything specific on exactly how that funding can be utilized.
Yep. Okay. Anything else on that line? All right. If not, then our next scheduled meeting was the 16th, but that was pulled down. But we're now, I guess, 22nd. Correct, Mary?
Yes, we're on the 22nd. We're going to have Hampshire at 5:30 and EMD at 6:30.
Okay.
Ed, can you send me the Zoom info or do you want me to send you an email?
No, I'll have Judy send it to you tomorrow.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I think she's still got the information from the 16th up, so I can just have her change the dates on it.
Thank you.
Can I just, I was on mute and I started to talk when you asked and I didn't realize that I was on mute. But I would just like to plug in that town elections are coming up. There are a number of vacancies or terms that are expiring on the finance committee. And I know it's as your first year, it's probably a very daunting task, but it does get better. I promise you that. And so I would hope that those of you whose terms are expiring would consider running again this year. And there are papers available for signatures for your nomination to be on the ballot in Lucy's office, and they're due back with 32 signatures by March 30th. So I would hope that some or all of you who are eligible would consider serving. Thank you.
Thank you.
Because in my observation, I think you're doing a wonderful job. It may not feel that way at this time of the year, because I think everybody feels overwhelmed this time of the year.
Well, it's also tough when you've got 4 members basically starting off from scratch.
Right.
Also, I mean, theoretically, that's why you have the staggered terms, is that, okay, so someone or a couple of people may leave, but you also got, 2 or 3 people that are still there that, might have 2, 3, or 4 years or 5 years of experience doing that. And they kind of, lead the new people on and let them know what, they've learned over the years and some of the things that they've learned to, look at and what may or may not be important as you look at the budgets or the budget requests and what have you. So this finance committee has some, shall we say, unusual circumstances that it's dealing with too, going through this budget. But I can tell you with some of the people that I've dealt with over the years that all of you ask very good, educated questions to get to the bottom of things. So I think you're doing a very good job.
And I would like to offer, if anyone needs assistance in getting signatures, I would be very willing to help to get signatures on your nomination papers.
All right. Well, I would, having attended the last select board's meeting, I'd pass on to the rest of the members of the committee that the chair did pass along our thanks for the input that the finance committee has contributed to date. And that was seconded by another member of the board. So I think, what we've been doing and what we have done has made an impression, and it's been verbalized, and hopefully you folks are aware of that, and I thank you.
I want to thank you all too. And if you want papers, you can just call me and I will have them ready for you. Okay.
Feels like the wagons are circling.
I certainly hope so.
No, sincere thank you. Sincere thank yous to all of you, really.
Thank you, Lucy.
We appreciate your time and your effort.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's been particularly hard because of the situation. I know it's different if you're sitting in the same room, kind of changing ideas and expressing what you think. But here in the Zoom thing, it's more difficult. So we have to stay strong.
All right, with that, I don't see any more items on the agenda, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will second.
All right. All in favor, roll.
Rachel,
Yes.
aye.
Rachel, yes. Barbara, yes. Mary,
Mary, yes. Not I.
Cole, aye. All right, we are unanimous.
I have a question, Ken. Who put the motion? Did you put the motion through? I know Barbara said she seconded it. Who put the
No,
motion?
Rachel did.
Yeah.
Rachel did? Okay, thank
Rachel.
Also, Mary, can I just say thank you? You have been so great with the minutes. You've been amazing with all of the minutes on time and all the correspondence that goes with it. I really do appreciate you doing them.
I'm behind
So.
now. I'm trying to catch up. Stop having meetings.
Guess what? You're not alone. You're not the only committee or board. So, but thank you. You're doing a great job doing the minutes. So.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
Yes,
Yeah.
true. That
All right, folks, have a good night. And
Thanks, take
Good
care.
night, everyone.
you.
Thank you.
happy St. Patrick's Day.
Good night.
Thank you
Yes.
too.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.